it's what the show needs.
Hey, what's up, internet? It's
Welcome to the Cult of Contempt.
What's going on?
Paul was singing along with the theme song when we couldn't even hear it because that's how full of himself he is.
Well, I was cueing you guys.
He totally sold it though. That's the thing. You always you never like break character. Like you always follow through 100%. So that's something that I can fucking appreciate.
You got to follow through. That's what they say. Max, how are you doing?
Oh, as good as you can when you're stuck in your apartment and not allowed to go anywhere.
What's that thing behind you? A time machine?
No, that's my amplifier.
Oh, nice.
Fun thing about the Grandmeister 40, and no, this is not sponsored, but fun thing about this, so it lights up when you turn it on and off, which is cool. And yeah, it's my I got that back in I got that last year, and basically like all the music you've heard that I've been releasing was all the guitars were recorded with this.
So what is it that you have your own band?
Yes, so about 5-6 months ago I started up a solo project and started writing this instrumental progressive rock fusion kind of stuff. And I started writing all the music, and I got my brother on drums, as I've had forever. And I called up a couple other really good musicians I know and friends of mine. A guy named Brad Williamson on bass, and a guy named Michael Avery on second guitar. These guys are killer players and great dudes. And basically, I wrote all the music first, or most of it rather. I'm still writing some of it, but I wrote a good chunk of the music and then hit them up around, I'd want to say December or early January. I hit them up and was like, hey, I just started this project and I booked the first show, and then got a hold of them, and they're like, yeah, we're down. And so we've been playing since then, and we had a whole bunch of shows lined up for the summer, and then coronavirus happened and those all got put on hold. So yeah, but that doesn't mean that we're not progressing forward. I'm still writing the rest of the album right now. I actually did a live stream concert with them about a month ago, right in here actually, when the quarantining wasn't as bad. So we did a live stream concert here, and now I'm just writing the rest of the music, sending them the music as I'm like completing demos. And yeah, and hopefully I'll be able to release the album TBA, but soon.
Cool.
Gotcha. And so are you going under your name, like, or is it like, do you have like a band name, or?
As of right now, it's kind of just going under my name. Like, right. Yeah, kind of like a lot of the other instrumental guitarists usually do. I'm sort of doing that.
This is Max Boras, by the way. I don't think we did like an ID or anything, but Guitar Wizard is how I coined you, because you were doing all that tapping and shit, and just some very clean but very intense guitar work.
Thank you.
It's got an edge to it, but it's also progressive, which I think is a very hard thing to pull off. You know, a lot of progressive bands kind of go on like a little bit of a softer side. I think Rush, their first few albums were a little raw, a little more raw, and then they kind of softened. I think Fly By Night is actually a really cool album. But anyway.
No, it is. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's cool that you can pull that off, man. And you're kind of like I saw all these videos of you on YouTube, like as like a younger dude, like trying to win like guitar competitions and shit like that. And but that was very interesting. So when did you start, man?
I was 6 when I got my first guitar.
Holy shit.
Yeah, which was exactly 20 years ago. Well, it'll be 21 years ago this year. So, yeah, I've been playing since I was 6, and I was basically, I come from a sort of musical background in that my father's a drummer, and my brother became a drummer when he was born, and then my youngest brother after him became a bassist. My grandfather's a pianist. One of my uncles was also a drummer, and one of my other uncles briefly was a guitar player. So yeah, music was all over the house when I was growing up. My dad's been in a number of bands.
They rock bands or?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Is everybody playing in rock bands?
Everybody's been playing in a few different things. So my uncle, who was a drummer, he was playing in rock bands in the 70s and 80s. My dad's been playing in rock bands like pretty much his whole life. He doesn't do music professionally, but like semi-professionally. And he
It must fucking rock his knockers that you're like fucking blowing it out of the water. He's like, like really? Like this kid's standing me up now. Like to wipe his ass, and now he's fucking coming out with an album.
My dad's actually a really, really good drummer. Like it was because of him that I got into a lot of the music I started with. So, for example, when I was growing up, it was a lot of classic rock, classic metal, and '90s grunge when I was growing up because that was the music of the time. My dad's band, which at the time was called Looking for Art, they were gigging extensively in New York City, and the club they used to gig at, which isn't there anymore, called the Elbow Room, was on Bleecker Street. If you paid them, they would film your show with 3 mounted cameras that were in the club, and then they would sync the soundboard recording, which was a tape deck hooked up to the soundboard. They'd sync that up, and they'd give you a VHS of that night. And so I remember when I was like really young, because this was late 90s when he was doing this, and I was too young to go into the clubs then. You know, I'd be at my grandparents' house being babysat, just waiting to see that tape the next day. And it was from watching a combination of those videos of him performing with his band, which was a stellar band, and videos of like The Who and Led Zeppelin and whoever else. It was and of course my dad's band recording their only record in our basement. It was a combination of being around all that stuff. It wasn't like I made a conscious decision to be a musician. It was kind of just given that I was going to do it. Wow. And I kind of decided on a whim, guitar. It was sort of randomly, but then when I got my first guitar, I kind of just like couldn't put it down, and I was playing it all the time, and here we are now. I do, and now I do it professionally.
And then you were getting broads, and you're like, I'm never giving this up. Like, you know. But I think it's funny. It's kind of like, so you went to school for music. I mean, I saw on your website. So
I did, yeah.
So you got into theory and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. I've studied harmony, theory, composition, arranging, the music business, all those different things, really.
So I feel like, you know, you come from, you know, that kind of background, and then Paul is kind of bubbled up from the neither regions of music, kind of like learned it his own way, you know, like some sort of punk rock, you know, monk or something like that.
Well, what's awesome about Paul is that he he very much has an image and a sound that's very much his own, and like it's authentic. And that's one of the things I love about Paul. His music is so authentic, and he's one of the most prolific people I know. This guy writes, 6 albums a day or something? Like, not EP, full-blown albums a day. And he's just got, and the thing is, like, he's got a tenacity like pretty much nobody else I've ever met. He's always just like producing, and but at the same time, he knows how, like, you're supposed to get your music out now. He knows how you know, DistroKid works and Spotify, and he's constantly pushing that out there and marketing himself. So like, it's, you know, while he is doing it DIY, he still knows how this stuff works and knows how to get it out there.
For sure.
Talking about him in the third person as he's right here.
No, you know, that means a lot coming from you, because it's like, I don't know, I wanted to say before that I feel like you kind of make progressive music fun. In a way, and that's like what I kind of feel like it's missing. Like, I don't know, a lot of that stuff I wouldn't listen to because it's not fun. Like, it'll evoke a certain emotion for me sometime or another, but there's got to be some kind of aspect of fun and like flashy, you know, like fucking tapping and shit. Like but it's not overdone. It's tasteful, and I just love what you do. And
thank you.
The fact that you think I'm talented is touching. Coming from you, that's like fucking like Mozart telling me that I'm.
Oh, jeez. Well, thank you. Hopefully, I don't die at 30-something, but.
So if you guys are done sucking each other's dicks, no, but I know what you're saying, because like Dream Theater, you know, those guys just seem like they're showing off all the time.
I like
You
Dream
know,
Theater.
I mean, they have some good songs, but a lot of it, I feel like Mastodon was another band that kind of
No,
married
Mastodon's
metal and
heavy as
progressive
fuck
rock.
though. Like that was, I
Right.
thought, like kind of fun. Like I
But
think
their
Mastodon.
early albums are great, but I feel like they got lost in the weeds as time went on. They just kind of got like too weird or something. They went like the Mr. Bungle route, kind of. I don't know. That's the way I feel about them. You might feel differently, but
I don't know. I like Dream Theater. I've seen them two or three times. I've seen them twice, and I gotta tell you, I was blown away by their show. I thought the musicality. I still feel that when you see them live, that their music really can tell a story, and the band is incredibly tight. The last time I saw them was when well, they were touring the new album they just did called Distance Over Time, which is a great album. But they were also doing the anniversary of Scenes from a Memory, that the concept album they did in the late '90s, which is still my favorite album to this day. And I
wow.
gotta tell you, uh, well, my favorite album from them rather. And yeah, and I gotta tell you, like I first discovered that album when I was like 21 or something. So it's not like I was a teenager, but hearing them play that album from like start to finish, even when just like the overture and the first two songs hit me, I was singing my heart out, and it was just like they're really good at putting on a show.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. First of all, the sound, the mix is incredible. Like you can hear every detail, and they know how to entertain an audience. Like, James Labrie knows how to front a band, and everybody in that group just I think they understand that not everybody in their audience is going to be a musician. You're going to get people that don't play but just love the music, and they know how to make it entertaining for people overall, I think.
So let me ask you this. So, like when you're talking to writers and stuff like that, there's kind of a divide, and I think it also applies to music as well. Whereas it's like some people will tell you, go to school, get an MFA, learn how to do this, how to craft fucking stories, and then half will tell you that those places turn out writers that are all the same. The market is flooded with them, and people want to hear an original voice. Just fucking shut yourself off from the world, do your own thing. And I feel like you kind of got like, do you feel like you really got something out of music school, or do you find that it turns out a lot of kind of uniform songwriters?
I definitely benefited a lot from going to Berkeley because, excuse me. First of all, when you go to a music school, one of the most important things is meeting as many people as possible.
So networking, that's a lot of what they say for the MFAs too. I'm sorry, but go ahead.
No, it's okay. Yeah. And the thing is when you go, you can, I believe that, and being a teacher myself, I believe that you can learn all the stuff in an institution and still be unique, because you're being taught a set of tools, but everybody's going to use those tools in a slightly different way because we're all human. It all just depends on what your voice is and actually being able to grasp that voice and put it into the world. So, for example, you could know, all right, so I'll just go into guitar for a second here. You could know harmonic minor in every single key all over the fretboard and all the positions and everything like that and all the inversions and all that stuff backwards and forwards and on your head. But what you do with that is going to in some way be different from everybody else, because we're all human and we all process music in a slightly different way. Yes, some of us may have similar influences and have certain things we might gravitate towards, like certain chord progressions and what have you. But at the end of the day, we all have different influences, and everyone's hands are going to move differently on the instrument, or everybody's brain is going to want to gravitate to something a little bit different than the other person. And it's really just a matter of, when you're given the tools, you find out how do you want to use them. And this is something I tell all my students as well. Like, I will show them like all the different possibilities with something, and they'll sometimes get annoyed at me showing them like 40 different fingerings for something, and I'll explain to them, or me going through every single key and every single mode, and I'll explain to them, here's the thing, you want to know as much of these as you can, because when it comes time for you to write your own music or learn music for a band you're joining or whatever, you have this information accessible and you know how to use it for your particular situation.
Yeah. A lot of people try to cut corners on the fundamentals, and then they undercut themselves later on, you know?
Yeah, no, I'll admit that when I was 13, 14 years old, like, understanding harmony and theory, like, my brain didn't... I didn't have the attention span for it necessarily. I just wanted to play songs and whatnot. But as I got older, I realized, okay, this is stuff I need to know, especially when I would hit roadblocks with songwriting. I would be like, I don't know where to go here. And I'd be like, let me go back into my old notes and see, like, what are some of the possibilities with this key or this mode or something. Or just go and listen to other music and be like, huh, what do I like from here that I could use without actually taking their notes and whatnot.
Right.
So, yeah.
Paul, do you have any comments as a songwriter?
Oh, I've been doing awesome producing, actually, on this whole show. Cutting between you guys like fucking Tarantino over here.
Nice.
No, what I'm really like most excited for to have you here is what advice do you have for all the homeschooled people, or the people out there that have to homeschool their kids now?
I'd say this is an opportunity to, not that you don't already know your children, but get to know them on an even, how do I put this? You'll get to spend a lot more time with them, and now you have a hand in helping them even more in their educational growth. This is a chance to form an even deeper bond with your children, I feel. Speaking as someone that was homeschooled myself, one of the things that I really enjoyed about being homeschooled was I was around my family a lot more, and I was able to hear more so their viewpoints on life and how for them, like, or their view on how the world works and everything. And I was and because music was in the household, that kind of integrated itself into into schooling as well. Because basically what would happen is after I would finish doing my schoolwork, it was immediately going to the guitar and practicing. And I just found that I have a really, really good relationship with my family now. And I think being homeschooled definitely attributed to that, because I was around them a lot more. And because they were helping me in my education, I felt I formed a really strong bond with them through that. And again, that's not to say that parents that don't homeschool their kids don't have a bond. They absolutely do. I'm saying this is a way to enhance it even more.
Cool.
Now, the people that I've heard a lot of debate about homeschooling, and one of the downsides I've heard is that you don't have access to social situations like you do in school. So you don't meet as many people your age and stuff like that. Do you think that impacted you at all, or you just think?
Well, I mean, I was kind of somebody that wanted to be at home practicing a lot more anyway, but at the same time,
you're more introvert.
Yeah, not intentionally. I was just I had a lot of enjoyment playing guitar at home, but I did have friends, like kids I knew in the neighborhood.
Right.
But what I did was, I feel that, like, you can still have social interaction. You just have to do more extracurricular activities. So, join after school programs, join clubs, join scouts, join after school music programs. There's a lot of different things you can do to be involved in your community.
Are you an Eagle Scout?
I was in Boy Scouts briefly, yeah.
Oh, you didn't make Eagle though.
Thomas and my dad are the only ones on my dad's side of the family that no, what am I talking about? Okay, in my immediate family, my dad and Thomas are the ones that made Eagle.
No, so you're in the club with me where you just like kind of hung out in Scouts for a while and went camping. Yeah, Klondike Derbies.
We didn't even have that. No,
wow.
I hung out in Scouts for a bit and was trying to, do it. But I found that like I was more involved with trying to enhance my guitar abilities. Like I
Gotcha.
remember one time I could not make a meeting because I had a gig one weekend in Pennsylvania actually, and so and but I remember I hadn't left yet, and the scoutmaster drove by and had to drop off everybody else back at their home after the meeting, and they're like, "Aren't you supposed to be in Pennsylvania?" I'm like, "Yeah, I just haven't left yet." So.
Yeah. I
But
was
yeah,
a Boy Scout.
if you went there for like hours, you wouldn't have been able. You had to come home and then prepare and then go. You were a Boy Scout too, huh, Phil?
I got up to life, which is right before you start the whole Eagle Scout thing.
Funny,
But
because
then
you
it
don't
was like,
have one now.
Ba-dum-bum-bum-wah.
Nobody does.
Yeah,
Like,
really.
okay.
Most
I
people
have
are
a
spending
thought
half
about
their time to see if Andrew Cuomo has nipple rings or not. That's my favorite new conspiracy theory,
No,
whether or not the governor
He
of New York
tapes
has
his
nipple
nipples,
rings.
I think. I think he tapes them so they don't chafe.
He's a taper.
Yeah, he's a taper.
It's like black wire tape, so when he takes off his shirt, he looks like he should be in a Tool video or something.
He's probably got big fucking Italian Hershey Kiss nipples. Probably innies. And he's just got to put tape on that shit so it don't chafe and bleed all over his nice polo.
Oh my
I think when he gets home, he takes off his shirt, okay, and he's got not only double nipple rings,
But a
he's got
Prince
a half
Albert?
sleeve. He's got a half sleeve of the Crimson Ghost. He's got a Prince Albert. He does like a faux like devil hawk. He puts on like eye makeup and he just rocks out, just like that, to the Misfits.
Max, are you gonna play us a song? Oh, nice.
Nice.
That's awesome.
That's what you're hearing, yeah.
Love it.
You're like who
Luckily-
I wanted to be when I was 14, but I could never make it to that level on guitar. So I just put it down, and I ended up focusing on writing, which I got farther in. But anyway,
So are
but
you?
that's cool, man.
I got a question for you. So like,
Do it.
I didn't know who you were until I started watching his podcast. So what
Okay.
what is it that you do? You write for who?
Well, right now I work for a research foundation in Manhattan. I also write for Big Think periodically, which is a website. It's got about 3 million followers on Facebook,
Cool.
almost 4. So my top article I ever got the most clicks was 100,000 clicks. And I got several at the 50 and 900,000 clicks was the highest I ever got. But I got several of 100,000 and a few over 50,000. So
That's awesome, man.
thanks, man. I'm mostly known as a science writer and journalist, but
Oh, cool.
but I write about other stuff too.
Nice.
And I also have a fiction piece published. It's a comedy called the Job Interview, and it's basically a guy who gets more and more humiliated through this job interview, and then he flips out, and then as the police are taking him away, he gets offered the second interview. So so I'm actually turning that into a script for Ken Katowski, who's the cinematographer we had on here.
I just saw the one you guys did with him.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, that was a
Nice.
good show, and I'm gonna pitch it to him. So that's my
Awesome.
little teaser, but I haven't been able to get to it yet because my work has been fucking crazy, as I know Paul's has been too. But I thank God that I still have a fucking job.
It's like a blessing and a curse, because
It's a blessing and a curse.
on some level I wish I could sit around and play guitar and kind of just do what I want to do, and on some other level, so much of songwriting for me is like talking to people and then people watching and like putting myself in their perspective, and not being able to do that. And like I mean, I'm talking to you guys, I'm happy, don't get me wrong, but it's like when your friend's right next to you, you can just punch them, like that's the kind of thing I need for songwriting, and I don't have that right now, so it's just been kind of like
Specifically, punching Philip is what you need to write a song.
no, not Philip. The other
Well, good to
co-host,
fisticuffs.
the other co-host, he's gone now though. He left.
That'll be bleak, Jim.
Yeah, he was our punching bag, or so he thinks. But
So he thinks, yeah.
But no, I don't know. That's kind of my thing. Is like I can write instrumentals all day. I can write songs that are sound and fury, but meaning nothing, and like just empty words. But I'm happy that I got a job and I just keep at it and stay busy. Like every day is a new adventure, especially now. I don't know.
We might be going back to a world where we're gonna have to wear masks out in the world for a while and shit. Just
yeah, everybody's dressed like the people that steal ET.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Like I've been, so like because we, because of all the quarantining. So like, I teach guitar and bass, and I direct a band program at this place called the Rock Institute. Plug. And and so all the lessons I've been doing there are we've been doing them like via FaceTime and whatnot. And like I said, to fill the gig gap, I've been doing live streams of my own. In fact, I got one this Saturday on my page that I'll be doing, and I'll be premiering a new song on that from the record, which will be cool.
That's boras guitar, right?
That's my handle for everything pretty much. I'll be doing it on my personal Facebook page, but like you'll find it in there.
Yep.
And yeah, that's going to be at 6 p.m. on Saturday when I'll be doing that. I'm going to be doing it with these two other musicians I know from here in Boston. They're in a band called Storm Stress. I've been friends with them for a few years now, and they're great players and great songwriters. And we're each going to be premiering a song of our own that we haven't released yet, so that'll be fun. And but yeah, so I've been trying to figure out. I've just been trying to get a handle on all the live streaming and everything myself. But I feel that like, and I've talked about this before. I think that in a way, like, because since the advent of smartphones and everything, everybody's been kind of quarantining themselves in a way to begin with. People don't really go out to shows as much anymore. Everyone's glued to their phone. Everybody's glued to their iPad, and people would rather stay at home and watch Netflix. But the thing is, now that we're forced to do it because we have no other alternative, one of the things I'm hoping for, and I think this will happen, is once the quarantine is lifted, people are going to want to socialize more, go and see live music more, and have a better appreciation for the arts. That's what I'm hoping for, but I'm thinking that's going to happen too, because, and I'm seeing it like all over Facebook, everybody's getting, like the memes have shifted now. Everyone's talking about, all the memes now have to do with being cooped up inside and going crazy.
Yeah.
And
that's just what everyone's
no play makes Jack a dull boy. Like
but now you're going to have worries of people who go to communal events, such as a concert, catching the virus, and I'm afraid that, while flattening the curve is good, we're probably going to be dealing with this thing, at least seasonally, for some time to come. Some people are equating it to polio, where it would come out seasonally. So, but they say they're going to have a vaccine in a year and a half, so hopefully that'll do something for it.
Hopefully.
In any event, some people might be scared to gather in groups for a little while. That might be another social reaction. I mean, I hope you're right, but I think when it is safe, everybody's going to party in the streets. But until then, we're going to see a fucking generation of COVID kids and a lot more streaming services.
Well, that's the other thing too, is that like because more people are doing this kind of thing now, it's kind of in a way becoming the new radio.
We might become an online society.
Like the Matrix.
Like the Matrix, yeah. I hope not, but
I hope not too, but there definitely will be a bigger jump in online marketing and online concerts for sure. Because like now, even myself, I've had to teach myself rather quickly how to get good audio and video live stream, or I was just posting everything after the fact, which you can take your time and make things look awesome. But now I got to figure out how to do it in real time. And
Right.
a lot of other musicians, I feel, too, are figuring that out as well. So I, once people get more comfortable with it, there definitely will be an increase in live streaming concerts, live streaming lessons, and what have you. Not that there wasn't enough of that. Not that there wasn't a lot of it to begin with. There's definitely going to be a lot more. So I feel it's probably going to go hand in hand. You'll get people that are live streaming a lot more, but you'll also get a good amount of people that are tired of being stuck inside and wanting to go out and experience it, I think. I don't know if it's
Yeah,
going to
man.
even itself out or if one will be more than the other. I'm just saying there will be an increase in something or another.
Word up.
What's been your quarantine like watch? What have you been watching on the quarantine there, Max?
What you mean, like monitoring the situation, or
No,
what have I
like
just
TV wise or video
Oh.
game wise? You been playing anything? Like,
I haven't been playing a lot, but I have been watching a bunch of like rewatching old movies and watching ones I haven't seen yet. So let me think. What have I watched? Started watching Archer again. Love that show.
Mhm, yeah,
Nice.
that's great.
Yep. What else have I been watching? Oh, I rewatched of all times to watch this movie. I rewatched 28 Days Later.
nice.
Just,
Apropos.
All right.
basically after watching that, I was just like, well, thank God we haven't reached that. So,
Well,
but let me,
Let me ask you this.
yeah.
So I saw your video Amethyst, which was
Yeah.
pretty cool. Was
Thank
all
you.
that shot in Jersey?
No, that's shot in Boston.
Oh, it's in Boston.
That's
What are
where
the
I'm.
locations, if you don't mind my asking? Because I knew they kind of looked familiar, but I couldn't really put my finger on it.
Nah, no. So I'm from New Jersey, but like after I went to Berkeley, I've kind of just been up in here in Boston since then. Because like
Oh, okay.
all the musicians I've been working with are up here. I teach up here. I'm up here. A lot of the gigs I do are around here. Like, so it's kind of, it just made sense for me to hang up here right now. Plus, my second youngest brother, who's also my drummer, is still in Berkeley right now, and he lives with me. So it just kind of made sense to hang around while I'm still working.
What's the scene like up there?
Well, right now, dead, but
In
but-
general, I mean, normally.
it's decent. You got to the thing is, again, with the scene in Boston, you gotta meet as many people as possible. You gotta start. I mean, it's definitely not New York or Los Angeles, but if you know enough people and are friendly and a good musician, you'll definitely be able to get work and make a living out here. So there's a good amount of clubs, there's a lot of people performing, and myself personally, I tend to go back and forth between performing with actual bands and clubs to doing pit orchestra work to doing session work to doing and of course I'm teaching.
What plays have you done? You've done like a bunch of plays, right? Didn't you do Rocky Horror and
I didn't do
or
Rocky
you
Horror.
didn't do
no.
Rocky Horror? Did you Grease?
I didn't do Grease. No, what I did was I did Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah. I did that one. That one was fun. I did. Let's see. I've done Sweet Charity. I did Chess. Chess was fun. I did. What was the other one I did? Let's see. There was a Beatles one called Let It Be that I did, which was cool.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and then I did an opera once. That was the hardest piece of music I've ever had to learn.
What was that, like classical guitar,
Oh.
basically? Like,
Oh no. This had been written that year, and it was a piece of like avant-garde contemporary stuff with electric guitar. But it was just like it was quite the challenge. But it was like it was a fun challenge. It was definitely the hardest music I'd ever seen in my life. But it was new. It was a new.
mountain to
It was
climb?
something what?
Mountain to climb?
Yes. Yeah. It definitely was. Well, I had a week to learn the music, so I
Oh,
had to.
shit.
Yeah, the first rehearsal was the day they called me, actually.
Oh, my
So-
God.
But it ended up working out really well, and it's like it was a really, really cool experience, honestly.
Nice.
So what else have I done? Oh, the obvious one, and I've done Mamma Mia a bunch of times as well.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, thing is, if you're gonna do pit orchestra work, you're gonna end up doing that one after a while. And I'll be honest though, you know, I'll be honest, they know how to write good songs. They know how to write catchy songs.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's
sure do.
like a good song is a good song. It's sometimes just the messenger that you want to punch in the face, depending on how they're.
I didn't say I wanted to punch Benny Anderson in the face.
No, not Benny Anderson, but you know, like sometimes just in general.
I think the media overplays these things so much that we end up hating them.
Like what?
Oh, I don't know. Just you know, it's like, you know, like the title track of Mamma Mia. I don't even know. You know, just I always hear the title track everywhere. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like.
Well, it's because it's the name of the theme. It is definitely played a bit.
I don't know. Just I think songs in general, they just should pick like some other songs and put those in the advertising once in a while. That's all.
I mean, yeah, there are a lot of cool songs in there too.
That's what I mean. They only pick one.
Because it's the name of the because it's the name of the thing.
It's memorable.
Everything notoriously, like I feel like so many albums that I listen to. When I hear the single, I think, oh, I'm not gonna buy this album, and then I hear the rest of the album, and I'm like, oh wow, this is all actually really good. It's like they pick like the song I hate the most to be the single, like the one I would skip every time.
It's all about context. There's been a number of times where I've heard an album, or no, I've heard one of the singles from an album, and I'd just be like, the song's okay, but then you hear it in context with the album, and you're like, oh, okay. This really works now.
Context is very important with most things. That's another thing too, is like I feel like the album is almost like a lost art. Like everybody I know now is just like, oh, we just do EPs. Everybody does EPs. Really? Yeah, nobody's doing fucking albums anymore, man.
That's sad though.
Luckily though, there are decent, so like with the genre that my music kind of falls under, a lot of the bands in that genre, such as I'll just name a few, like Periphery or Intervals or Pliny or Animals as Leaders or people like that, they're still doing albums because that market, while that market does digest EPs and singles, once they've gotten a couple singles and an EP, people are hungry for a full-on album.
But isn't an album by those bands too usually like 8 songs, like 8 really long songs, or is it? Or do they actually?
I'm gonna let's consult the Apple Music, shall we?
To me,
I'm gonna ask another question.
Yeah.
What's your genre, as you would classify it?
I'd say instrumental, like progressive. This is one of the answers I should know, like that. I'd say it's basically like progressive instrumental guitar rock, that kind of deal.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me think. Well, to answer your question, Paul. Let's pull up Animals as Leaders right now. Their last album had 10 songs on it.
10, okay, that's like kind of the number, like, but they're like long songs. They're mostly longer than 4 minutes, right?
Yeah. In fact, let's look at the album before that. That had 12 songs on it, and one of the most popular songs on it is 5 minutes.
Yes, I mean, it's like it's definitely like a wider format. Like, even if a band only did put out 8 songs, for me, that would be an EP. But for a band like that might be a full length because the songs are fucking probably 4, 5, 6 minutes long sometimes. Like,
yeah.
So, you know, it all balances out.
Exactly, yeah. Because I find for me what's cool about the EP is that, like, especially if you're doing your first release, an EP is a good idea because then that gives people... like it gives them a good amount of music to digest, but then it's still not enough because they want more.
Yeah, you leave them wanting more. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas an album right off the bat, it can work, but I feel for me personally, it's a good idea to do an EP first, and then you can start writing more songs after you've released it and start putting those in your show as well. And then people can, until the next release, can only hear those songs in a live context, and then that gets them coming to see you.
That's great. It also sells the next album, I guess.
What's the biggest show you've ever played, man?
The biggest show. All right, let me think. So in a rock context, probably. I'm trying to think if I've surpassed this one yet. Okay, it's a cross between. All right, it's a cross between two different shows. So I played with Dweezil Zappa in 2012.
Awesome.
And yeah, I played with him in 2000. I played with him in 2012. That was about 1,000 people. How many? Tarrytown Music Hall. What's the cap in that? Like 1,000 people?
I don't know. Probably. Yeah, say 1,000.
Yeah. So it's a cross between that or when I played at the Berkeley Performance Center, which is an actual commercial venue, but it's also part of the school. That was about 1,200 people. Don't know if it was sold out or not, but I got to perform there as well. That occasion was when my professor, John Finn, he does a thing he does every year called Guitar Night, where he basically holds auditions for all the different guitarists in the department or in the school, and you get to audition to have your band perform a couple songs in this big showcase that he puts on, and he puts it on in the biggest venue in the school, which is the BPC. And like I said, that's also a commercial venue too. Like Chick Corea's played there, Steven Wilson's played there, tons of people play there, and so I got to do that in 2018. So yeah, it's either Zappa or that one. I don't know which one had more people. Why is my phone blowing up?
You're famous.
And I almost and I almost forgot this one too. You remember Flathead Sky, don't you, Paul?
Yeah.
We played the Bergen Pack, and we played and we opened for Kix, actually.
Oh,
Not
really?
Kix.
KIX?
Yeah. The band that wrote Dynamite.
Nice.
Don't close your eyes. Yeah, we opened for them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's one of those. Those are the three biggest shows I've played.
Cool.
How do you guys know each other?
Do you want to tell this one, Paul?
It's a long story. Basically, his dad played in the Undead. So
Oh, no shit.
That's how
That's right.
That's how I met him, and then like his dad had to go back to work, or had to go away for work. He had to go somewhere elsewhere. So we were kind of like without a drummer. So then I suggested that his brother Ethan play with us, and that's kind of how like I became friends with all of them. Really was, you know, jamming,
cool,
playing rock and roll. It was fun.
Yeah, we did a show. I remember years ago. We did a show with Paul, me, both my brothers, and we played the entire Bad Hormones first album.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
that's right. It was called Sons of Boras. Yeah,
it's on YouTube. You can find that. Paul Malden, the Sons of Boras. It's great.
Yeah,
we played all that shit.
Yeah, Philip Vital, who we were just talking about, he was the one that uploaded a number of those videos.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, he always takes like awesome video of us. Like I'm pretty blessed that he happens to come around with his camera. You met him at Evil Expo. He might be listening right now.
He's a good guy.
Shout out to Phil V.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like the coolest fucking version of the Bad Hormones ever. It was the most metal shit that we ever could have done.
I remember rehearsing for that. That was so much fun. And I remember we were doing Killer Car, and I'm listening to it, and I'm like, oh, this song really does swing. And then I remember rehearsals come up, and like, here I come, and I'm like, all right, hold on a second. If we're gonna do this song, we're gonna make this swing like Van Halen's first record, okay? So we gotta let's go. And we did.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Best version of Killer Car ever.
That was so much fun. And then I think I remember after we finished the show, I said to you, so, Paul, do you have any other songs? You're like, no, these are the only 12 songs I know how to play. And then we did our encore after that.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I've been playing those 12 songs for a very long time, but I also felt like, you know what, like, how often do I get to play them with like the youth energy behind me? You know, like
Right.
That was
thrusting forward with youth energy. It was great, man.
Yeah, I still want to play with you again. And there's a couple tunes I really want to play with you live at some point. I want to do the first 2 songs off of Public Image Limited's album.
Yeah.
Because I know you would absolutely nail the vocals on that and the energy and everything.
Oh yeah, I love Johnny Rotten, man.
Oh,
He's such a
that's awesome.
miserable, cantankerous fuck. He's like my dad.
Well, I didn't mean it in that sense.
No.
I just meant
Dude, I've been watching in quarantine. I've been watching him just get interviewed by people, and like interviewers ask him like a relatively normal question, and he kind of approaches them like how the president approaches the media. It's like, yeah, so what? It's like, yeah, I'm just doing my job. Yeah, well, fuck you for doing your job. I'm just gonna leave. And he just gets up and leaves. It's like, okay. Oh, it was great.
Yeah, he's really cool, Johnny Rotten. Speaking of punk, I've been like, so one of the other things I'm doing now while in quarantine is, so as I mentioned before, I'm also a teacher, and I'm going to be doing I'm going to be teaching rock history courses soon online.
Awesome.
And so one of the things I've been doing is, because I've always loved rock history and
Me too.
and always tried to learn as much as I can about it. In fact, whenever I'm teaching, like whenever I'm directing a band program, or teaching, even though I tend to have students that are around like 10 or 11 or 12 years old, I'll still tell them about the background behind the song, or the background behind a band, or why this song is important in the fabric of like music history and now. And so and it basically came up. I was asked, why don't you teach rock history here? And I'm like, all right, sure. And so basically what I've been doing now is I've been going back and just reviewing everything I know and trying to absorb more. And so one of the things I started watching the other day, I watched The Decline of Western Civilization. That's I hadn't seen
Classic.
it before, but I was like, I better watch this. And it was interesting because like I have a good idea of what the New York and British side of punk was like, but didn't know the LA side. So I'm like, let me read up on this, and it was really interesting, some of the stuff I didn't know. And this shows you how much I knew. I didn't realize that Henry Rollins didn't always sing for Black Flag.
Oh yeah, no, they had like 20 singers.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Did you ever hear the story of when he left his Baskin Robbins job to go become the singer of Black Flag? It's
No,
worth
no,
he
do
does it
tell.
in he does it in like I think he does it in a Big Think video actually, but he was just like scooping ice cream there, and his manager knew he wanted to be a singer for this band. It was his favorite band and shit like that. So he's like, he actually gave him off, and he drove up to New York, and he met all those guys after the show, and he convinced them that he would be the next singer. So it's pretty cool. So he could have been a Baskin Robbins manager instead of fucking lead singer and
What
I guess
flavor
movie
of
guy.
ice cream would you like, sir?
Yep. Pretty much, yeah. It would
He's got
be
that tremendous neck. He's just yelling at you.
What an
Move
image.
along.
What an image.
He does seem like I haven't decided if he's really punk rock or if he's just like, I watched a video on him the other day. It's like, that's a guy that sang for a band for 20 minutes and it's fucking all he talked about for like 30 years is like, when I sang for Black Flag, it was depraved. And then, like you can look at the Rollins band, it's like, yeah, it was like cool, but I don't know, it was just aggressive, like for the sake of being aggressive. That's kind of him.
Yeah.
But it didn't really tread any new ground musically or whatever. It was just him like yelling over what sounds like Black Flag, kind of. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's a
But
divisive figure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was so I watched that. I've been reviewing a bunch of like old documentaries that either I hadn't seen or had not just seen for a while. And I'm going to really try and give as much of as I possibly can in these lectures. And but yeah, and I'm excited about it too, because I'm really, and this is the way we're looking to do it, and this is all on the website and everything. The first month is going to be a big overview of everything, and then after that, the following months are going to be going specifically into like eras and talking about how everything like kind of went into the next one. And there's going to be we're going to be talking about how the industry was working at the time, a lot of different names, important date, how this record was a monumental record in this genre and why, because of X, Y, and Z.
Cool.
All the socioeconomic stuff that was going on and how that influenced it. And
so give us just a quick breakdown. Like, what do you think? Who do you think were the most influential bands to rock, or the most influential eras, or something like that? Like,
oh, geez, it's pretty broad, because every era had some sort of significance to it to lead us to where we are now. But I'd say if we look at the different eras leading up to where we are now, if we look at, so we wouldn't be here now if like blues didn't happen.
Right, for sure.
So like if you look at, Muddy Waters, Robert Johnson, obviously, and those guys.
Lead Belly,
exactly. They that was really important. That was really important for that era. And then you've got the Motown and Muscle Shoals era. So the Funk Brothers were very, very important in that, because while it was, Elvis Presley and Aretha Franklin and all those people putting out those hits wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the Funk Brothers at Hitsville, USA, at Motown, recording all those songs every single day.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely recommend for anybody that wants to expand their knowledge on like funk and like classic funk and soul. Standing in the Shadows of Motown's a very, very good documentary to watch.
Muscle Shoals too. There was a good Muscle Shoals one, and there was also one about the Wrecking Crew from Stax. Yeah. That was also fucking super awesome. There's a lot of good documentaries out there about all that stuff. The Shadow of Motown one's solid too. There's like a good like 5 or 6 that came out in the last like 5 years that are super comprehensive and awesome for music history like that.
Yeah, Standing in the Shadows is like, that one's like, I think almost 20 years old now, or it's like from 2002 or something. Yeah, so it's...
To me, that's like 5 or 10 years ago. I know you were like 6 or something when that came out, but...
Yeah, 6 or 7 or something. You were, what, 30 when that happened?
I was old enough to drive, so it's like after that happened, I just forgot what my age was.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, so like, then we get into the British invasion. So like, the important bands for that are the ones you're probably thinking of: the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, the Rolling Stones, the Who, those guys. Right. But at the same time, the British invasion wasn't everything that was happening. You also had bands like the Mamas and the Papas, because these bands were also hearing them as well, because they were on the same festival bills as them. And Jimi Hendrix, obviously, and Eric Clapton. Those guys did what they did with the guitar, and then everybody else was listening to that and doing what they did from then on.
They influenced each other.
Exactly. And same with Motown. All these British invasion bands were listening to Motown and covering it. And then they decided to write their own music, which still had that American blues and soul sound to it.
Rhythm and blues.
Exactly. And so then you move into the 70s, you still have those bands from the British invasion, but then that's when music started getting even heavier. So like some of the guys from there would be people like bands like Yes. That's not heavy, but like that's when prog started happening as well.
Right.
Yeah, so you've got like bands like Yes, Black Sabbath, Judas Priest.
Right.
This is when
Zeppelin.
Zeppelin, yeah. Well, I already mentioned them, but yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then you've got people like Jeff Beck coming onto the scene.
Oh yeah.
And then you've got people like Alan Holdsworth just starting to break out. And then one of the more obvious ones is Eddie Van Halen, who again revolutionized the guitar and completely revamped how it worked.
For sure.
And Oh, and I forgot to even mention back going into the 40s, Les Paul,
Yeah.
the
Oh,
invention of the electric guitar.
right.
Yeah, you see, I don't have my notes in front of me, so
It's-
like
Yeah,
I have all this written down.
It's like a giant spider web of information and like synergy, and like if you didn't have this guy doing this guy and then meeting this guy and they did this shit and then all this other shit happened, it's crazy how history works, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in
that's-
fact, there's some stuff I'm sure I'm leaving out right now that when I watch this back, I'm gonna be like, you forgot this one thing.
Yeah, you didn't
But,
mention Deep Purple, dick.
Yeah, I know. Again,
But
there we
you
go.
got more, you fuck.
I know this. I was about to say that.
Oh,
Yeah.
do we have an asshole of the week? It's usually the time where we start to wind down the show and.
My
find
asshole of the week is the NASA astrophysicist. Did you see this? He was trying to invent some way to avoid the spread of coronavirus using magnets, but they ended up getting stuck up his nose. And he tried to get them out with pliers, and the pliers got stuck to his nose, and he had to go to the emergency room like that.
Ah, it sucks.
That does.
And
It's
the
an
picture was
astrophysicist.
priceless.
And that's an
He's like frowning.
and
He's
that's
like
an
frowning with his arms
astrophysicist.
folded. He was an astrophysicist.
Oh my God. God help us.
And I think I know who it is for me. It's me because I forgot another really important aspect. We actually would not have progressive music or concept albums or the kind of quirky music we have now if it was not for Frank Zappa.
Hell yeah.
The big
Because-
Z.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
because Sgt. Pepper's was a very, very important album in the development of like the concept album, whatever else. But people tend to leave out the Mothers of Invention's first album, Freak Out.
Oh yeah.
Is another significant part of that. If I'm not mistaken, that one precedes Sgt. Pepper's actually. It
Okay.
was the first, it was the first double album and it was the first concept album. And
New
yeah,
ground.
yep, and then when Frank started going on and doing more and more of the things that he did, a lot of people, granted, while he wasn't as famous as Led Zeppelin or somebody like that, or sold maybe as many records as they did, he was one of the most prolific writers. And yes, I said that. My phone's blowing up, telling me who I forgot. But I'm getting texts from people saying, "You forgot this." I'm like, "Yes, I know."
All the
No.
bean pickers out there are fucking weighing in.
Yeah, exactly.
Bean counters. No,
Yeah.
no, you must understand.
Yeah.
This vital piece of data. Everything else will fall apart. You must save this band.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, and then he went and did what he did, and then again, we wouldn't have bands again like Yes, or Mr. Bungle, or Primus, or people like that if it wasn't for what Frank Zappa laid the groundwork. He wrote the music of tomorrow, and we're still trying to catch up to it.
Word up.
Amen.
Yeah.
My asshole of the week. I don't even see any people anymore. So it's really depressing to think about.
Wikipedia.
No, I watched.
Hello,
oh,
me,
you know
meet
what?
the
My,
real
my
me.
asshole of the week is the guy. Did you see the video of the guy who flooded the hotel, and then jumped? Oh, there's a great video online. I don't have it queued up, but this guy flooded a hotel and then like jumped from the balcony of the hotel on the second story down to like the top of a car and just like broke the girl's sunroof on the top of the car, like ran off. Oh, it's hilarious. I think I posted it. I think I posted it on my personal page the other day. I'll share it on the Cult of Contempt page. That guy is my asshole of the week. Or maybe
Nice.
he's my hero of the week. I don't know why he was running all that water. Maybe he was trying to wash away the COVID. Just trying to wash away the vid, boys.
Don't you need bleach for that?
I don't know. I mean, if you have enough water, I'm sure the vid dissipates, right? it just becomes. I don't know how dilution works. I'm not a scientist.
You're not?
No.
Well, this guy writes for a science magazine. Maybe he knows.
I don't think we know that much about the virus yet to determine that, but so far it's...
When we do, we'll make him write the fucking article.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
right.
Well, I think on
That's
that
right.
note, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it has.
Likewise.
Max,
Thanks
thank
a lot,
you.
Max.
Oh, thank you.
You want to plug anything real quick?
Yeah, plug your shit, man.
Okay, so I've got 2 singles out on Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music, and all that. 2 singles under my name, Max Boras. I'm gonna be doing a live stream this Saturday at 6 p.m. for my personal page. I'll be premiering a new single, or not new single, a new song. And this is actually the thing about that: the song is not going to be released that day. It'll be a one-time listen before the album comes out. So if you want to hear that. So if you want to hear that song before the album comes out, tune into my personal page at 6 p.m. on Facebook. I'll be talking with Tanya and Tia from Storm Stress, and we'll be talking about all different kinds of things. We might not mention the asshole of the week, but that's more of this channel's thing. And then, so I got two singles out, and I'm just writing the rest of the album right now. I do a quarantine stream every couple of days on my Facebook, so you can check that out. And if you're curious of any other things I got going on, you can go to my website, maxborisguitar.com. That's all one word. You can also check out my YouTube page and all that stuff. And I do, and when we're not quarantined as well, I do live work. I do sideman work. I've got my own project. I play in a few other different bands. I play with Sunset Strippers, who are a Boston 80s tribute band. Well, Worcester 80s tribute band, rather.
Worcester.
Yeah, exactly. I drive all the way out there to play with them, and it's fun.
Nice.
I do. Let's see. I do tons of freelance work. I do transcriptions. I do freelance recording. I teach. I do anything you need. Just hit me up. All my stuff is on there, and that's. I think that's everything. I got going on until my phone pings and says you forgot X, Y, and Z. Yeah.
Max, you are a hustler, my friend.
Right? When do you sleep?
I've been going to sleep at 4 a.m. the past 3 days, so.
Wow.
That's early for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I gotta tell you that I'm writing the finale to the album right now. It's gonna be 16 minutes long.
Nice.
Wow.
Can't wait,
Yeah,
brother.
I'm gonna be tracking drums for that tonight, actually.
Awesome.
Ethan's gonna want to kill me when he sees the length of the song, but.
We'll give him my best. We're gonna get out of here. Yep. Audience, love you guys. Everybody stay safe. Wear your masks in the fucking store, and be safe, everybody. You guys, thank you for meeting up with me. Max, put your mask back on. There we go. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot, man. Awesome show.
Take
care, guys.
Take care. Love you guys.
We hope you enjoyed our presentation of Cult of Contempt podcast. If you have any questions or comments, or want to hear your band on the show, just write us at cultofcontemptpodcast@gmail.com. If you'd like to see back episodes of the show, youtube.com/Plan10 Studios, cultofcontempt.org, or right here on Facebook, Cult of Contempt Network. Even check us out on Instagram at Cult of Contempt Podcast. You want to reach Paul? It's at Paul Mald on Twitter and Instagram, and Paul of the Living Dead on Facebook.com. Phil Perry, the writer, on Instagram.